Hey folks, Troy Dooley, the Beachside CEO, and I hope you're having a wonderful July 2021. This is our 245th birthday as a country, and when you look at it, man, we're a young republic. Rome was the longest running republic, 1,200 years. We have a long ways to go. We've come a long ways. When you look at our history to where we are today, man, we've overcome some crazy obstacles, crazy generations, but yet the one thing that's held us true is not just our Constitution, but it's the fabric of this country. It's all of the mosaic people that say, we the people. I love that. Hey, I want to look at something. A few years ago, I interviewed Trey Knight, and it was when he had left Fortune High Tech. The regulators had come in, shut down Fortune High Tech. Paul had passed away. And he looked for a new home, and he found Limu, who happened to be a client of mine. Gary Racer and I are dear, dear friends. Just love that man, love what he stands for, what he's done for his family. And he's always taken me and said, Troy, before we talk, tell me about your family. And it's been great. And so I got to interview Trey. But over the last few years, I had received a lot of inquiries where people have said, we've heard some stuff about Trey Knight. We want to send you some stuff about Trey Knight. It's like, that's fine. Now, he'd left the field. He'd become an advisor, a client. I think he was an executive at some companies. And most of this was civil issues. Well, civilly, things go crazy. People can file lawsuits all the time. And then last year during COVID, I had received some insight where people said, look, we're hearing rumors that there's a major criminal investigation going on, that it's at a federal level. Trey Knight isn't even his real name. He changed his name a few years ago to leave his past behind. And it's like, well, hey, everybody's got a right to do whatever they want. This is America. But as the cases started piling up and I started looking at some of this, it's like, man, there's a rough track record here. There's some stuff here that causes one to ponder. And then in May of this year, May 2021, a new case came into being. And what happened was a grand jury indictment was opened up in the Middle District of Louisiana. And U.S. Marshals went to Franklin, Tennessee to pick up and arrest Trey and his wife. They have a beautiful mansion up there, and that's where they were arrested. Now, when this happened, I got a phone call. I quickly text some people that I know Trey. One of them in particular had merged or sold his business with Trey a few years ago. And so I reached out and said, have you heard anything? And very straightforward. We're good friends. And he said, Troy, from what Trey has told me, this is just a misunderstanding. Everybody got paid back. This should go away. It shouldn't interfere with business. But then I started getting some information where, and I always get these names wrong. You guys know that. What's the name of his company? Navan Global. It looked like Trey had done some type of a deal, it'd be a good word, just say the word deal, with NewAge, who had bought Limu, Ariix. They bought a lot of companies, and Trey had somehow did a multi-million-dollar deal with them to say, look, we'll just merge our database in with you. And I couldn't tell, was this maybe prior to him knowing he was going to be indicted? Was this, was he just wondering, did his law firm tell him to do this or what? Couldn't tell, but it became very convoluted. And then the case came out. Now, when Trey went before his arraignment, him and his attorney said, look, this is a simple case. We want a speedy trial. We want our right to a speedy trial, which is a constitutional right. And Trey started telling everybody, don't worry about it. And I believe everybody, except maybe behind MLM, had removed some articles, took some stuff down, said, okay, we'll just give you the benefit of the doubt. If it's going to go away in July, all is good. And he had two trials set for July that should wipe it out. That was the concept. You had the pre-trial and then the trial. And then yesterday, a really shocking, based on what he had said, A motion, unopposed by the federal government, I might add, a motion was filed and granted by the judge. And here's what this says, just so that you know, and I'm going to read this. It says, United States, you can see it. We'll put all this up in a blog post for you guys, an article for you to read. United States versus Haskell Trey Knight. Unopposed motion to continue pretrial conference, continue trial, and declare this case complex. Now, you go less than 90 days ago with the defendant stating, it's a misunderstanding, everybody's been paid back, no big deal. Now, even then I thought it was a little strange, because if it's a simple case, if it's a misunderstanding, you would think that possibly the prosecutor would call the defense attorneys. You know, they might not have known them since this was a grand jury indictment. But usually, if it's a simple case, we don't bring in the U.S. Marshals. In this case, it looked pretty complex, looked pretty damning. It's a criminal case, not a civil case. He's never had any felonies before, but this is a major multiple felony. And it's like, simple, now complex. So that was interesting. But let's go on a little bit, because it says, come now, Trey Knight, who through undersigned counsel respectfully that the present pretrial counsel set July 13th and the July 26th trial date be continued. Furthermore, due to the complex financial character of this case. This is his team, his defense counsel, who is saying, due to the complex financial character of this case, we need to deem this case complex. And their co-defendant has also agreed to this. So what does this lead? I don't know yet, but let me go on. It says, Mr. Knight had his initial appearance May 26th. 1 week later, on June 2nd, Mr. Fields, that's a co-defendant, was arraigned on this date. Number 3, discovery is ongoing between the government and the defendant. The defendant and then the defense. The defense promptly requested discovery from the government, whose initial response was thousands of pages in length. Now, this is crazy. It says, it includes many financial records. Defense counsel are not yet certain what motion needs to be filed on Mr. Knight's behalf and need more time to review the file and subsequent discovery request. Here's what this narrows down to. Mr. Trey Knight, who said this was a simple case, it was a misunderstanding, that the wire fraud or the potential wire fraud, that it's not, everybody's been paid back. This just exploded based on his attorney saying, we need to go with a complex case. There's no way we're going to be ready for trial based on the thousands of pages of evidence that's going to be submitted by the government. And this is only the discovery that has been there. There may be more discovery, more motions that are there. Where does this leave us as an industry, knowing that the FTC has just put down a new internal ruling saying, look, we're going to put back into play what we had in 1975, and we're going to go after companies. Now, not just direct sales. This is across the board. The FTC just lost a case in front of the Supreme Court telling them you're going to have to use different laws, so they're mad about that. We have the SEC, who has really buttoned up and said, look, we're going to go after fraudsters. We have the CFTC, who is looking into the Forex community and into the crypto community. We just saw a fast settlement with the U.S. promoters of BitConnect, who are settling for millions of dollars. So where does this leave us? What do you do as an independent professional in the direct sales space? Who do you trust? Where does this leave executives that are working for individuals who are going through this? These are questions that there aren't black and white answers. By the way, the judge did okay this continuance, so it's now going to be bigger. But I want to hone in on the industry itself for a minute. Direct sales is a phenomenal industry. The sub-communities under that, whether it's a direct market, consumer to consumer, whether it's business to consumer, B2B, doesn't matter. For the most part are great folks, but where it gets murky is when you have greedy shysters that come into play. It's where you have people that have good hearts who, when the money starts flowing in, they don't know how to stop all the rhetoric that goes on. And we've seen it across the board. We see it in the Forex, where people are claiming lots and lots and lots of money being made, people becoming multimillionaires and all that, and yet you don't see evidence of it out there. Usually there's something that's powerful, something that's good, but people are wondering, is this true? Can people be making tens of millions of dollars a month? And if so, why aren't they on Fox Business or CNBC or Bloomberg? Why aren't people talking about them? If they're doing all this great stuff in crypto, then why aren't people talking about it? Now understand, I'm talking about companies that have compensation plans. I have nothing against crypto. I have nothing against Forex. I have my issue with why regulators are coming down on companies. When you have founders who are shysters, according to the government, when you have people in the field that are purporting stuff that is false. In Mr. Knight's case, there's been documents and depositions where he has stated that a lot of what he said from stage has been false. It's not been true. So when you look at the hype and the rhetoric, when you look at some of these old school methodologies of sales, it's no wonder regulators are saying, hey, this is low-hanging fruit. Let's go after these guys. It's that plain and simple. I think that if you're in Navan Global, you got to look at, okay, did he sell the company to NewAge? Is NewAge going to take over our agreements? What happens? This is something to think about. What happens now that a criminal case is going on? A lot of agreements with consultants, advisors, merchant processors, payroll companies, formulators, manufacturers, shippers. When a criminal case takes place, there's a clause in some of these agreements that's a reputational clause. If you're going to cause us trouble, we can nixie the agreement totally, just cut it off. Or in the case of merchant processing and some payroll companies, they will say, look, we're going to take higher reserves to protect ourselves in case there's something going on. From a rep standpoint, here's what I tell people to think about. If you can't get product, you can't sell product. If the owner cannot get access to all of his commissions or all of his money to pay you, then you're not going to get paid. I don't know where a criminal case might land and then a regulator with the three letters want to get involved. I don't know that the FTC or the SEC or somebody else might not get involved and be spinning a civil investigation. These are things that we don't know. What we have to look at is, why did a rep get into the business anyway? In the old days, direct sales, MLM, network marketing, whatever the case, I don't even care if it was brick and mortar. You got into the business for something bigger for you and your family, or for you personally if you were single. The most successful marketers that I know over my last 40 years in direct sales use their revenue stream from their network marketing business, from their direct sales business in the early days before we started getting auto ship and all that. We'll do a different video on that. What they did was they took that money and they used it to create additional income streams. They own ranches, farms, real estate. I've got a friend of mine, I think they own 30 houses. Now they bought a ranch. I have a very, very successful friend of mine in a company, and he has high-end real estate across the world. It's kind of a timeshare. They will buy car dealerships, apartment complexes, invest in traditional stock market. This was a vehicle for them to reach a bigger dream, a bigger objective. Today it seems like it's all about pump and dump. Pump the company, and once the company is no longer there, then you go and you start pumping a different company, and that's where regulators get upset. So we're going to study this case. I'm going to put some more documents up here. We're going to follow it. What really set off is this went from an individual that's a high influencer in direct sales stating this is a simple misunderstanding to his defense team without any objection from the government or co-counsel, saying, no, this is a complex financial case. We have to be due diligent. We have to hold each other accountable. We have to make sure that we understand where we fall in this. There are no, anything that an owner does, anything that executives do, anything that you do, everyone is held accountable at one level or another. There will be people that would look at you and say, well, you told me this was a great guy. You told me this was a great company. You told me these were great products. And then when something happens, they're going to look at you and say, I'm holding you accountable. You must be due diligent. You must run your business like a business. Make sure you have the right insurance policies in place. Make sure you know what you can and cannot say. Make sure you stay within the guidelines of regulations and compliance. And you should do phenomenally well at building a business that probably won't be your last and probably is not your first and will help you become something bigger. I've got a good friend of mine. I used to run companies in direct sales. Now he's one of the best shippers because that was something that frustrated him so much in the company that he had. They did hundreds of millions of dollars that he went out and started a shipping company and now supports other companies, including just regular affiliates and brick and mortar companies. So you never know where it's going to lead, but you have to run it as a business. You have to do your due diligence. We'll follow the case. We'll put the stuff up here so that you guys can follow it yourself and see what I'm talking about. Live life like it's an epic adventure. Troy Dooley, the Beachside CEO. We'll see you next time.